Welcome. I'm going to be speaking about taking control over what you can control and not worrying about the things and stuff that you can't control, that you don't have influence over. In life, we go through experiences, situations, scenarios, processes, mechanisms that we deal with where there are some that we have the ability to control, which mean influence in a large way. And there are those that we don't have control over, or that we don't have to force control over, or that we don't necessarily need to take power and control over because they play out on their own, or they're going to play out on their own, and they're going to happen how they happen. It's going to be what it's going to be in regards to the things that you cannot control. So don't worry about what's out of your control. I know a lot of times when we're going through difficult situations, and sometimes we get into perspectives where we think we need to control everything that we're going through. We think we need to, like I said, control everything that we're going through. And if there's something that we can't control, sometimes we shy away from that. Sometimes that makes us uneasy. Sometimes that makes us unstable. Sometimes when there's things in our realities that we feel are out of our control, it could be a difficult thing to recognize, a difficult thing to be aware of, a difficult thing to admit that I don't necessarily have control over this. But there are times when that's a good thing. That's not a weakness there. It's about being able to not worry about the things that you can't control and then focusing on what it is that you can control. Because there's things that you can't control that are going to still play out for your best benefit, are going to still play out for your favor. There's going to be things that you can't control that are going to go against you, are going to go, let's say, not in your favor. There's a possibility and a chance of that to happen. There's situations, scenarios, experiences, processes, mechanisms, and all sorts of things that we deal with in life where you do have control over that. And being able to focus on those that you have control over is a tool that you can use to guide yourself through the experiences, to be able to realize that, okay, this is something that I can control, so why don't I focus on what I can control? And what I can't control, I'm not going to worry about that. Therefore, I'm able to focus in on whatever it is that I need to control. Focus in on these things that are able to be controlled versus the things that you can't control. Don't necessarily worry about those things that you can't control. When it comes to, mentally being able to look at and think and ponder upon, what things can I control regards to mentally. Well, you can control the way that you think. You can control primarily the thoughts that you have. You can control the way that you communicate mentally. You can control the way that you receive information. You can control the way that you use your mind. You can control the mental forms that you are, let's say, using, and you can have an influence on that. If you're having mental forms that you're using that feel it as if, oh, I'm not in control, I can't think the way that I want to think right now. So realizing that control isn't necessarily a bad thing, and control necessarily isn't a good thing. There's a balance there in between having control and not having control. So going into that, when you say, oh, I really am not able to use my mind in the way that I think I can, or to the best of my ability, and I can't control that. Well, sure, that may be the case, but what you can control is the effort that you put into working towards being in controlling that mind state that you want to be using. You can control the work that you put in mentally that will contribute to reaching that mind state or mind space of you being able to use your mind in a way where it's beneficial towards you and that you're in control of using the mind in that specific way. Let's say you are having certain thoughts that you think, I cannot control these thoughts. These thoughts are just happening to me, and I'm dwelling on these thoughts, and they just keep reoccurring in my reality. And whatever that may be, you have to realize that, okay, but what can I control is how much power I give that thought. And the less power that you give the thought, the least occurring that it will keep coming back, the least it will keep returning into your mental state of being. The more that you pay attention to that, or those mental thoughts or whatever, you're losing control of, weeding out those bad thoughts, or weeding out thinking a certain way that you don't necessarily want to think. So when it comes to some things that you're going through that you, let's say, can't control in regards to mentally, you can't necessarily control how mentally people think about you, or mentally what is thought upon you in regards to externally when it comes to mentally. You don't have to worry about that. That's the thing. So you shouldn't be worrying about trying to control what is thought about you externally, what mentally people are thinking in regards to you, because that's not really of importance. That's really in their own reality, what they are thinking, and that's nothing that you need to be worried about being in control of. And so dial it back and realize, okay, what can I control in regards to mentally? I can control aspects of the way that I think. I control aspects of weeding out bad thoughts and gaining good thought, good food for thought, good mental thought, good mental chatter. I can control the effort that I put in. I can control where I'm putting my mental state of being, what I'm applying my mental state of being and my mental abilities to. And therefore, the more that you focus on what it is you can control in regards to mentally, the less things that you can't control are going to outweigh you. The less things that you can't control are going to have an influence on your reality, or an influence on your experience that you're going through. So there's things that you can control as far as mentally when going through experiences, and use your mental state of being to have a perspective of, what can I control? What are things that are outside of my control? Therefore, you can focus on the things that you can control, and you cannot worry about the things that you can't control, because those aren't really that important, the things that you can't control. But being able to dial in and focus on what it is that you can control is going to help you into your development on your path as far as mentally becoming wiser, mentally being able to control what it is that you're applying your mental state of being towards. Therefore, you are reaching the space that you want to reach as far as mentally. You're completing the goals that you want to complete as far as mentally. You can control your direction that you are going as far as mentally, and that's what it's worth. What isn't worth it is trying to control what others may think about you in regards to mentally, what other people are coming up in their own mind of, judgment of you, or their own opinion of you, or what it is that they think about you. Don't worry about trying to control that, because that doesn't matter. That's in their reality. So you need to focus back onto your reality, focus back onto, what can I control as far as mentally going through this experience? Therefore, I'm using this as a tool to be in my power even more when it comes to mentally. Therefore, I don't have to worry about these specific things. I'm dropping that dead weight of trying to worry about controlling what others think about me, or what others are perceiving about me in regards to mentally. Therefore, I have more energy, more power. I have more focus on what it is that I can control in my own mental state of being. Therefore, I can propel myself towards a better state of mind. Therefore, I can propel myself towards a better state of being when it comes to mentally, a better state of well-being when it comes to the mental state of mind, and when it comes to the mental state of being, reaching a more stable mental state of being, reaching a more mental space that is stable versus unstable. Therefore, going through experiences, you can even less worry about what it is that you can't control. Therefore, you're continuously learning, and you're continuously on the cycle of, okay, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard the term, worry about what you can control, what it is that you can control in your own hands, and what doesn't apply to that, let it fly. What doesn't apply to you being able to control that, don't worry about it. And it's very true, because there's going to be things that you have control over, and there's going to be things that you don't have control over. But making sure that you focus on and you work on the things that you can control, especially when it comes to mentally, is going to put you into that power where the things you can't control matter that less. The things that you can control, you have a little bit more of a majority, or not majority / minority, or whatever percentage level you might have an influence over what it is that you can't control fully. You have a little bit of an influence over that, or those will have a more percentage level of working out in your favor the more you're focusing on putting in the work into the things that you can control. And as far as mentally, that's going to be making sure that you're mentally strong, making sure that you're mentally sharp, making sure that you're mentally perceptive of whatever it is that you're going through, making sure that you're mentally aware of whatever it is that you're going through. Therefore, if you're focusing on what you can control in regards to mentally, you don't have to even think about what you can't control mentally. You don't even have to worry about what you can't control when it comes to mentally. You don't have to go into deep thought about how is this going to play out? What are they going to do? Are they going to approve this? Or am I going to get approved of by this, by that? Am I going to be able to think the right way in regards to, let's say, that situation that I'm not in right now, but that I'm going to try to be in the future? Don't worry about that. Worry about what it is that you can control. Therefore, in those future events, you have that mental space of strength. You have that mental space of stability, that mental power in order to just deal with whatever it is that you're dealing with in that situation once you reach that situation. So if I'm squinting in the camera, whatever, it's just because the sun's right in my eyes. I'm right in front of a window. I'm sure you guys can tell just by the light and the shadows hitting me. But yeah, I can't really see what it is that I'm looking at, so it's kind of a little bit bright, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is that I'm going to focus on what I can control, and that is getting this video done, mentally being able to sit down, communicate what it is that I want to communicate, teach what it is that I want to teach in regards to this topic of control what you can control and leave the rest behind, and the topic of not worrying about what you can't control, because that's not really important. The things that you can control are a very less significance of the things that you can control. And when it comes to, let's say, physically, what are the things that you can control in regards to physically? And to have to go into each state of being and break down, what you can control, what you can't control, why that's important, what can we learn about this, and whatnot, going through each state of being is, sure, that's a complicated task. Sure, that's a task that takes energy. It takes mental energy, physical, emotional, spiritual energy, but it's something that I'm willing to go through. It's something that I'm willing to put the work in towards to reach that goal of continuously being on the mission, continuously putting out work, putting out things that are in my own control. Therefore, things that I can't control, I have to worry about even less. Things that I can't control, I don't have to pay any significance towards. And when it comes to things that you can't control in regards to physically, things you can't control as far as physically, the body that you have, and that's just per se your height, certain physical features that you have. And then on the other side of that, you can control the body that you're given. You have control over being able to work out and change the composition of your body, being able to sit in the sun and get a natural glow about yourself, changing the skin tone of your skin in a way that you like that, and that's a progression of your physical state that you know is a state of well-being for yourself through health, through physical appearance, whatever that may be. There's things that you can control physically, and there's also things that you can't control as far as physically, but being able to focus on the things that you can control as far as physically is going to build you up physically far, far more than what the things you can't control had they not gone in your way without you being able to control them in a negative way. The things that you can control are going to far, far outweigh whatever it is you can't control in regards to physically. When it comes to being able to go from any situation that you're in, dealing with people, places, and things, and actions and activities and tasks and whatever that may be, as far as physically, those are things that you can control yourself in those moments. What you can't control is, let's say, what necessarily people you deal with, what places you have to go, what things you have to interact with. But as long as you're controlling what you can control as far as physically yourself in those situations, then whatever is over here externally to you that you're having to deal with, person, places, and things, and whatever it may be, as far as things that you don't necessarily have as much influence over, what you have in your own physical state of being in the control over, these things over here start to matter less because you are going to be in your power when it comes to physically. Therefore, whatever comes from over here can't necessarily affect you as much as you having your strength and being in your power over here as far as what you have control over in regards to physically. And that's a strong point, because we have to focus on the things that we can control, and we have to not worry about the things that we don't have control over in regards to physically. And you going through your day-to-day experiences and saying, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to go through that experience, I constantly have to do this, and I constantly have to do that, whatever that may be, you might not be able to control that you have to constantly do this on a constant basis. But what you can control is the way that you attack these experiences as far as physically, the way that you stand physically through these experiences, the way that you move physically through these experiences, the way that you react physically to these experiences that you have to go through is going to far outweigh the why do I have to do this again, the things that you can't control. I have to do this for a living, I have to make ends meet, I have to do what I have to do. These things that are out of my control, that I'm doing on a constant basis, that I can't do, okay, sure, there's that, those are there, they're in existence, but they're not really that important. What relevance do they hold if you're over here taking control over what it is that you can control as far as physically? If you're over here being in your power at all times and regarding physically things that you can control, making the things that you cannot control less significant, making the things that you can't control less of an influence on yourself, making the things that you can't control have little to no influence on self. Therefore, moving through each experience that you have to go through, not being dependent on or worried about or even burdened by things that you can't control in regard to what you can control physically. So focus on what you can control in regarding physically, even the difficult things that you struggle with. You know, you are always going to be going through changes in regards to physically, your body, your everything physically that makes that you as a being, as a physical being, is going to be going through changes. And you know, sure, some changes may be inevitable, some changes you might not be able to control, but do your best to focus on what you can control regarding those challenges, regarding those difficulties that you may face as far as physically, to best attack those situations, best attack what it is that you're going through in regards to physically. I can't really see whatever it is that I'm looking at right now, which is me recording myself, because the sun has pretty much shined very brightly in my eyes. Therefore, what I look at right now is kind of dark, and I already have a screensaver on my screen that is pretty dark, a screen protector that is. But I'm going to control what it is that I can control. And from my perspective, it's my own actions. It's the actions that I'm aware of in regards to not being able to control, oh, I can see how I look, I can see what I'm doing, I can see the actions that I'm involved in through just looking at the screen or whatever. I'm taking control over physically what I can control, knowing that I'm good in regards to what I'm recording, I look good in regards to what is showing up on the camera, and that's what I can control. What I can't control is, not being able to see that, me yawning when that's a literal, like, physical symptom of you doing something that is, taking energy away from you, or that is using your energy, not necessarily taking energy away from you, but you're using your energy reserves for that. Therefore, you might have a yawn. You might not, your mind, body, emotional state of being, and spirit might not be in the perfect condition, that physical condition that you are to have all the energy that it is that you need to break down every single thing and do a 40 to an hour video, or 30, or however long that is. It doesn't matter how long of a video that you do. It really doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, I can't control that I yawn or not. I can't control that the viewer is going to see me doing that. The viewer is going to see me itch my nose. The viewer is going to see me drink my water, because that's just stuff that doesn't really matter. That doesn't matter. I can't control how other people are going to view me, how physically people are going to judge my physical appearances, how physically I'm going to be judged by person, places, or things, or how I'm going to fit into person, places, or things as far as physically, because I can't control that. I can have an influence over that, and I can see the influence that I have over that, but they don't really matter. So why wouldn't I just focus on the things that I have control over? Therefore, I can move into a stronger space in regarding my independence in terms of physically, my independence of external judgment, external thought, external opinion of others as far as them judging me physically. I'm going to stray from that, and by straying from that and not worrying and giving into any of that, I continue to become a more attractive individual physically. I continue to be a more stronger individual physically. I continue to be a more healthy individual in regard to physically, just by focusing on the things that I can control and not worrying about what it is that I do not have control over. If you have made it to this point in the video, I appreciate you. I appreciate you watching the video. Go ahead, show some support through, this is YouTube. You guys know how to show support. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the community of the real spirits who are aware mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and are always putting in that work emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. No matter what it is that we're going through, we're constantly pushing the needle forward. We're constantly developing. We're constantly growing through whatever it is that we're going through. So that's the intermission. We're going to get right into the emotional state of being. Let's talk about the emotional state of being, and then we'll talk about the spiritual state of being, and then we'll close out this video, and we'll have to get into the next one either in, let's say, 12 hours from now, 18 hours from now in the morning, later tonight, 12 hours. And primarily, I would like to shoot for a video in the next 12 hours, a video in the next 20 hours. Therefore, I'm pushing forward always, continuing on to put out content, continuing on to give you guys things to watch, continue on to push out the wisdom and the knowledge for you guys to pay attention to, and for you guys to soak in, for you guys to reflect, and to help this learning process through the experiences that we're going through. So let's move on. What can you control as far as emotionally? Well, you can control your emotional reactions to things. You can control the way that you, let's say, feel about things. A lot of people would say, no, I don't control the way that I feel. I felt like something opposite to what I am. But little do they know, those people just weren't in control of the way that they feel. They were leaving too much importance to the things that they can't control in regards to emotionally, which are maybe your impulsive reaction to things, maybe truly some of the way that you feel about things you can't control. But in my experiences, the things that I can control as far as emotionally are the way I react to things, my emotional reaction that I have to things, the emotional state that I'm in, the emotional status that I'm in when I go out and I experience things mentally, physically, and spiritually, and the emotional maturity that I express, and the more emotional maturity that I bring with me in all the experiences that I'm going through as far as emotionally. And so there's things that you can't control emotionally, let's say, like how people feel about you, how people react to you in regards to emotionally. And that doesn't matter. You don't have to try to control how other people emotionally feel about you to be a highly likable person, or to be a highly talked about, or a highly, let's say, influential individual. You don't have to control the things that you don't have control over in regards to how other people feel about you, or how these people feel about you, or how that person feels about you. Make sure that you focus on and you control what you feel about the process that you're going through. What you feel about, okay, I don't have control over the way others feel about me. What do you feel about that? Do you feel good about that? That should be something that makes you in your own power as far as emotionally, makes you emotionally confident, makes you emotionally strong, emotionally independent on yourself, and self to validate your own emotions, not to have external validations of, oh, I feel this way. Do other people feel this way? No, know that you feel that way, and take control over the fact that you have that perspective, and that you feel that way, and that you can continue to feel that way, because that way of feeling, that emotional reaction to that, whatever it may be, experience, situation, has benefited you, and you're going to continue to use that emotional reaction to benefit you in regards to, what you can control as far as emotionally. The more that you can control what you have emotionally, the more you can control what you're going through emotionally, the more you can control your emotional reaction to things, and the more you can control your emotional state of being, the more stable you're going to be as far as emotionally, the more easily you're going to go through experiences and not having such difficult times emotionally bonding with people, difficult times emotionally being damaged, difficult times, let's say, being emotionally taken back, being emotionally exhausted, being emotionally this, emotionally that. The more that you take control over what it is that you can control as far as emotionally, the more stronger you're going to be emotionally, the more you're going to be able to control the reactions that you have to things as far as emotionally. Don't give credence and don't give power to things that you can't control in regards to emotionally when they don't matter. Sure, you can take the perspective of what someone feels about you, what someone feels about me, and take that into consideration and learn something from it, and set yourself on a path of learning from that experience of what one may feel, but to realize that you don't have to control that. You only worry about yourself as far as emotionally. Of course, you could care about how other people feel. This isn't about caring. This isn't about thinking that you can influence in a positive light, or influence in the right way, or lead someone down the right path, or help someone and assist them down the right path. This isn't about that at all. This just has to do with, when it comes to going from experience to experience, what you have control over and what you don't have control over, and realizing, focus on what it is that you have control over, and don't worry about what you don't have control over. So as far as emotionally, continue on, being in control of your emotions, being able to control the way that you react to things, and know how you're going to react to things. Not just, oh, if someone does this, there's no way of telling how I'm going to react. If someone does this, man, I'm going to be set off as far as emotionally. Focus on those feelings and control them. Try your best, work on them to control them. Therefore, you're in a more emotional state of well-being. You're in a more emotional state of stability as far as emotionally, and working towards being in that state of being as far as emotionally. Therefore, you're not emotionally burdened. You're not emotionally damaged in the experiences that you're going through. So moving on to the last segment of this video, we're going to talk about spiritually what you can control. And You can control the spiritual systems that you are using, the spiritual systems that you, I wouldn't say fall under, but that you create yourself, that you build. Of course, other people fall under spiritual systems, like, let's say, religions, pre-existing thought forms, spiritual systems, whatever, that most people subscribe to, that most people are part of, without really second questioning things or whatnot. And we're not here to say that that's a terrible thing. It's for each individual, each spirit to decide for themselves what spiritual systems that they want to be a part of. But what you can control is the credence that you give to these spiritual systems. The new spiritual systems that you develop, so let's say your own understandings and overstandings of things as far as spiritually. You can control the way that your spirit takes in the information, the way that your spirit takes in the experiences that you go through, the way that your spirit grows on your path in what you are going through as far as spiritually. You can't control spiritual attacks. You can defend and protect yourself from them, but can you control them from never happening? Can you control people from never negatively reflecting things spiritually onto you, spiritual attacks, spiritual judgments, spiritual opinions negatively onto you as a spirit? Maybe you can stop it at the source, which takes you fighting that attack and you defending yourself and you protecting yourself in regards to spiritually. But can you really control these things from never happening in the universe ever again, from them not continuing to occur, when the situations that we go through are always showing us that, hey, there's oppositions that you have to deal with, whether that be mentally, physically, emotionally, and of course spiritually, right? So yeah, what you can control though is your reaction to those attacks. So you can control your reaction to those judgments, those ways that they have reflected onto you, let's say in a negative light, or whatever that may be in regards to what someone wants to put on you spiritually. Don't worry about that. Use that as a way to build yourself in regards to spiritually. So what you can control is how you're growing from that spiritually, how you're developing spiritual wisdom, spiritual insight, spiritual knowledge from the spiritual attacks you deal with, from the spiritual judgments that you go through, and realizing that, okay, I can control myself spiritually, I can control the spiritual systems that I'm involved in, I can control the spiritual missions and the spiritual goals that I'm involved in, I can control what it is as far as the spiritual work that I put in, I control what it is as far as where my spirit is going in the physical realm, where my spirit is using my mind to think about certain things in the mental realm, where my spirit is using to feel certain things in the emotional realm. I have control over my spirit in that way, and I have my control over spiritually what spiritual space and state of well-being I'm in regarding spiritually. And in terms of spiritually, I'm not giving any credence, not giving any power to the things that I can't control regarding spiritually, like what I've talked about previously. You can't necessarily control those things, but what you can do is use those as a way to control your growth, control your intuition, your spiritual intuition, to grow that much more from these experiences that you're going through. And remind yourself, when going through certain situations, when going through difficult situations, focus on what you can control and don't worry about what it is that you can't control.